Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert, an award-winning daily series from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. If you've got any questions you want to ask today, please pop them in the comments box below or use the hashtag QBATE if you're on Twitter. If you need any more advice and you haven't already done so, please join the official Intuit SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants are on there with business experts 24/7 to help. During the live session today, we will be running a poll, so please do engage with it and I'll reveal the results at the end. Today's a difficult day for many of you out there, entering into lockdown number 2. So I wanted to just touch on, before we start the questions, just a bit about the support that's out there for you all. But before I do that, just a quick introduction about myself and what I do and who I work for. If you haven't seen me before on Ask the Expert, my name is Judith Dugdale. I'm a chartered accountant and I'm based in the northwest of England. I work for a firm called MHA Moore and Smalley, and we provide services across all areas of business advice to small businesses, large businesses, startups, growing businesses, family businesses, anything you can think of. We have those types of clients across all sectors. As you would expect from a large firm of chartered accountants, we offer compliance services as well as growth advice, help with raising finance, selling businesses, doing buyouts, buy-ins, anything you can think of, we are there to help our clients. Hopefully that experience that we have will help today with any questions that you may have for me. I personally work in our digital solutions team. I head that up with a team of 10 people, and we only deal with clients who use cloud accounting software. We not only provide the ongoing compliance services such as bookkeeping, VAT returns, year-end accounts, we also help new businesses set up bookkeeping systems using cloud accounting and advise existing clients on different apps that they can link in to things like QuickBooks Online to make themselves more efficient. So in terms of where we are today, I did just want to go through some of the support that's available. And first of all, I would mention that on the government website, so that's gov.uk, if you go in there and do a search for coronavirus financial support, there's a page that comes up which has got a series of questions that it asks you. It takes about 5 minutes to go through the questions. And what it does is it pulls out all the different types of support that is available to your type of business or you as an individual. So I would flag that up. It's a great place to go and just see what's happening. And obviously the government update that continuously as there are new guidance that comes out. Just to recap though for you on what is there, I'll split it into 2 areas, what's there for businesses and what's there for individuals. And looking at the businesses first, and particularly those who have employees, just wanted to mention about the coronavirus job retention scheme, or the furlough scheme as it's more commonly known. The government announced that this is now been extended to the end of November. It was due to stop on the 31st of October, but luckily for businesses that are caught up in the lockdown, you've now got access to this furlough scheme for another month. The other good news about the furlough scheme is that it continues to be a flexible furlough scheme. So you could either furlough all your staff for all their hours, furlough some of the staff for some of their hours, or furlough just the odd employee for maybe half the time that they would normally work for you. It's quite flexible, as it has been for the last sort of 4 or 5 months. The other good news is that instead of the government just giving 60% like last month, they're actually going back up to the 80% funding of wages. The only downside is that businesses will have to fund the employer's national insurance and the employer's pension on any staff wages. The maximum amount the government will fund is up to £2,500. So it's the lower of 80% or £2,500. Eligibility for this scheme is anybody that was on payroll at the end of October and went through an RTI submission at that date. So it's a bit more flexible and up to date than it was previously, where you had to have been on a furlough scheme by the end of June to qualify for the July through to the end of October one. As far as we're aware, and the information that we've been given so far, even if you've never used the furlough scheme, you will be able and eligible to come and use this new extension to the current furlough scheme. And that is something that wasn't available previously. So It's not on the government website yet, but we have had that detail through, so hopefully they will update that and just confirm. But as far as we're at this moment, even if you've never used the furlough scheme before, it should be open for you in this new lockdown. Also, just wanted to mention about the SSP rebate. So sick pay is given to employees when they're off sick. What the government are doing is, because they're conscious that if somebody catches coronavirus, they've got to be off work for at least 10 days. If somebody in their household gets it, they need to isolate for 2 weeks. Not everybody can isolate and work from home. A lot of people, therefore, are unable to work. So what they've done is they've created this SSP rebate, which allows employers to claim 2 weeks sick pay for their employees. So you do that through your employer's government gateway. Just wanted to remind people about the funding that's available from the government organisations. So we've got the CBILS, which is the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme for small and medium-sized businesses. And we've got the Business Bounce Back Loan. I suspect the Business Bounce Back Loan is one that's more applicable to a lot of the smaller entities that use QuickBooks. And that, just to remind you, is where you can borrow up to £50,000 or 25% of your turnover, whichever is the lower. You get 6 to 10 years to pay that back. There is no repayments in year one, and it's a fixed 2.5% interest rate. The government will pay the interest in the first year, and there are no personal guarantees. So if you haven't yet accessed that Business Bounce Back Loan Fund and you're experiencing some difficulties at the moment, or know you will do because of this new lockdown, then please have a look at the Business Bounce Back Loan. The best place to go is to approach your current bank, and if you go on their online webpage, you will see that they'll have a big bit about the Business Bounce Back Loan, and it takes minutes to apply, and the money can be with you within 24 hours. The other thing to mention is time to pay agreements. HMRC are working with businesses to arrange time to pay agreements for corporation tax, pay as you earn, and VAT that businesses are struggling to pay. And finally, don't forget to go to your local authorities' web pages and see what funding they've got there. There's discretionary funds out there, and it's likely that the government are going to provide some further grants for those businesses that have to shut during this second lockdown. Finally, before I get on to answering the questions, I just wanted to touch on the support that's there for individuals. If you're a self-employed individual, the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme has a third payment that will be covering the months of November, December and January, and you can apply for this on the 30th of November. You don't need to have applied for any of the other scheme payments which were earlier in the year, but unfortunately the eligibility criteria remains the same as it did for the first one. So that is that you had to have submitted a self-assessment tax return for the 2018-19 tax year, and you had to have more self-employed income on that tax return than you did have any other forms of income. There will be a fourth SEISS payment that will be around March, April time and cover the months of February, March and April. Unfortunately, we don't know the level that you can claim for that, or when that will open, but we do know there will be another one. And just to, in case you're not aware, the government did up the percentage that you can claim in November. So they're allowing you for the month of November to claim 80% of a month's earnings. So over the 3-month period of November, December and January, you will be able to claim effectively 55% of your average 3 months earnings, up to a maximum of 5,610. For those of you who are not self-employed and have lost your job, or your hours have been cut significantly, please do look at the Universal Credit Scheme. There's been a lot of talk about it, and yes, payments normally take 6 weeks to come through, but they do an advance payment if you can prove that you really are desperate for some money earlier than the 6-week period. And there is the new style Job Seekers Allowance Fund that's out there, and this applies to anybody who's recently lost their job or is working less than 16 hours a week, as long as you have paid national insurance in the last 2 years. So have a look at those little bits of support that's out there, and hopefully that can help you all get through this next lockdown period. I'm going to start taking some questions now. Feel free to ask me anything about what I've just covered, about support, about what you want to do with your business while it's shutting down. But also, if you've got any specific QuickBooks queries, I'll have a go at answering those as well. Moore and Smalley are a elite partner of QuickBooks, and we've been using QuickBooks for 5-6 years now. So hopefully any technical questions we'll be able to answer for you as well. So the first question is from Rebecca, and this is from a Twitter direct message. Rebecca says, I've applied for the bounce back loan weeks ago, but I still haven't heard from my bank. Is it a maximum number that we can get, or do you have any idea why it's taking so long? I would speak to your bank on this, Rebecca, because as I mentioned in my intro, the business bounce back loan usually is the money is in your bank within 36 hours, 48 hours. I've had clients that have had it within 24 hours. It might be that when you've done the online application for the business bounce back loan, something wasn't ticked that should have been. Now, if you haven't had it, it could well be that they've decided you're not eligible, but they would come back and tell you that you were not eligible. So it sounds to me that maybe something hasn't gone through correctly. Just to reiterate, you do have to go to your actual bank website and you do it online there. It's not a email to a bank manager or a request via email. It has to be done on an online form. So if you have done the online form and you got the email back from your bank to say that they've received your application, then I would chase that up with the bank and just find out what's happened there, because you should have had that money by now. You ask if there's a maximum number. There is only one business bounce back loan per business. So if you have actually applied for one in the past, you will not be allowed to have another one. And the maximum amount you can claim is 25% of your turnover for the last year, or £50,000, whichever one of those is the lower. And the next message is from Anne, and this is Facebook Messenger. Morning, Judith. I have not used the job retention scheme until now. Will I be eligible to apply for the extended furlough scheme? My employees have also not used it earlier, but they have been on my pay-as-you-earn payroll since February 2020. Well, the good news, Anne, is as far as we understand, yes, even though you haven't used the furlough scheme before, you can use it during this lockdown. And yes, as long as your employees have been on your payroll, it's actually from the end of October. So if they've been on your payroll since February, then there'll not be a problem at all. The way that it works, if you've not used the furlough scheme before, is you will pay your employees as normal or up to 80%. You can choose to top up between the 80% the government give you and the 20% that they wouldn't, the extra 20% they would normally get, or you can choose to just pay them the 80% that you'll get back from the government. The rules are that you have to pay that out to the employees, and then you do a claim afterwards with HMRC. And there's loads of stuff online. If you go to gov.uk and search the furlough scheme, you will find details of how to make that claim. If you do have an accountant or somebody that does your payroll processing for you, then I'm sure they probably provide a service to do that furlough claim as well. Maisie from Twitter direct message said, morning, Judith. Have there been any new announcements regarding cash grants for retail and hospitality businesses? I was actually frantically looking at this last night, Maisie, because I couldn't really see any confirmation from any government ministers or on the government website about exactly what grants are going to be there for retail and hospitality businesses. Now, when we went into a tiered system, being up in the Northwest, we obviously had an awful lot of clients that were in retail and hospitality within tier 3, and they had to shut. Now, they were afforded £1,000 grant per week that they were shut by the local authority. So I would assume any other businesses that are now shut and forced to shut through the lockdown. So that's not that they voluntarily closed. It means non-essential retail, leisure, hospitality. If they have been forced to shut, then I would expect there will be some grants forthcoming. And I do remember there being a government spokesman that did say that there would be around a £3,000 grant available. However, I haven't seen that yet confirmed in writing. So I don't want to promise you that that support will be there, but I do think that it's likely that that will be there. So again, keep listening out for government updates. A good one to do actually is I follow Rishi Sunak on Twitter, and every time there is something new that he's authorised or promoted in terms of grants or funding or furlough, he does tweet about it, and then you can be the first person to pick up what he's saying. The other one that's good to watch and follow as well is Martin Lewis. He puts up updates quite regularly, and he seems to get that information through quite quickly as well. So keep an ear to the ground, and obviously I'm sure QuickBooks themselves will be updating people if we hear anything else, and obviously the Ask the Experts in the morning will be able to update you with any news. The next question has come from Sebastian on Facebook Messenger. Sebastian says, I own a small pub. My question regarding business rates holiday, what does it mean for me in terms of benefits? Also, how do I check if I'm eligible, and how should I apply for all the benefits available? So if you run a small pub and you pay business rates, so some businesses don't pay business rates, they get what we call the small business rates relief. So you will know if you pay it because you'll have a monthly amount that goes out to your local authority. It was announced back in March that any hospitality businesses would not have to pay business rates in this year that we're in now. So if you are paying business rates, and like you said, you are a small pub, you need to contact your local authority and explain to them that you're still paying business rates and you want those business rates stopped, and they should refund you anything you paid from April through to the end of October. The way that you do apply for those benefits and any other funding that might be specific to hospitality would come from your local authority. If you go to your local authority webpage and you search coronavirus support, they will have pages of information on there and details of how you can apply for grant funding and also who to speak to about business rates. The next question is for Myram, and it's from Instagram direct message. Good morning, Judith. I'm a freelance consultant. I lost my last client in September and I've not been able to find any clients yet. I started assisting a friend in the last month. Since I have not been in business for a month, will I be able to, will any of the available grants under the extended SEIS apply to me? I'm assuming if you were a freelance consultant, then I suspect you probably will have prepared a self-assessment return for 2018-19 and submitted that. If you have done that, irrelevant of the fact that you've helped your friend a little bit in the last month, you will still be able to claim the SEISS based on the freelance work that you previously did. Now, if you didn't do a 2018-2019 tax return, then I'm afraid you're not eligible for the self-employed income support scheme. But if you did, you will be. The question about claiming it is that you've been adversely affected by the coronavirus. Now, if you were a freelance consultant and you've lost all your clients, then you are adversely affected, and it doesn't then prevent you then helping somebody else, even if that is for paid work. If you're getting less income than they used to, then you are eligible for that grant, assuming you did file that 18-19 tax return. Got a message from Tracy from Facebook Messenger. Tracy says, hi Judith, I'm a self-employed individual. I've been advised to delay my application for self-employed income support scheme so I can benefit from both the SEIS as well as universal credit payment. I'm unsure how this all works. What would your advice be? So the universal credit is there for people that earn a specific amount of money or less. I think from memory, it's when you earn less than £16,000 a year, but don't quote me on that. It would need to just double check on the government website. So if your self-employed income support grant, which is classed as income, if you claim that and you've claimed previously, and it's going to take you over that £16,000 limit or whatever the cut-off is for universal credit, then yes, you may be unable to claim the universal credit. However, what I would say is the self-employed income support scheme, if you don't claim it in the window that's available, you can't go back and claim it previously. So if you haven't claimed for the one that covered April, May and June, or the one that covered June, July and August, then unfortunately, July, August, September, sorry, unfortunately you can't claim those now. Those are finished. So I would advise you that it's worth checking how much your claim would be under the November application. So have a look at what your average earnings were last year, work out what 3 months of those earnings would be, and then you will get 55% as a grant. What you need to then do is check whether that 55% that you would get is greater or less than what the universal credit would be giving you per month. And if the universal credit is greater, then I would stick with the universal credit. If, however, the self-employed income support scheme grant would be higher, then I would claim that. Overall, you need to speak to the government on this through their universal credit team. There's a free phone number on the website. If you go to the gov.uk website and look at the universal credit, there's a number there, and there's a free chat online as well. So I would just run through that with you, because you want to make sure you're financially the best you could be. So Daniel from Facebook Messenger has asked the question, apart from the deadline extension, has there been any other changes or announcements regarding CBILS? So CBILS, for those of you who are not familiar, is the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme, and that is where you can claim up to £5 million of loan funding or asset funding. The deadline has been extended, as you say, Daniel, to the 31st of January 2021. The other announcements that we've had recently about this is that you can contact your bank to try and get the terms of that agreement extended and put over a longer period. Other than that, there haven't been any changes or announcements regarding the CBILS. Message from Vivian on Twitter direct message. She says, can I claim universal credit as well as the new style job seekers allowance? The answer to that, Vivian, is yes, you may be able to, but also you may not be able to. So I suspect if you're on universal credit, there are terms around that. So you can't have specific amounts of savings. So if you can get the universal credit, then you're probably allowed to get the new seekers job allowance. But it depends how long you've been out of work, and it depends whether you've paid national insurance in the last 2 years. To qualify for the new job seekers allowance, you have to have been paying national insurance in the previous 2 years. Again, go to the government website, search for the coronavirus financial support. In there, you can say that you are an individual, and it will come up with all the details about the new job seekers allowance, how you apply for it, who is eligible to apply for it, who isn't. They've got actually about, let's say, 6 or 7 scenarios of an individual out of work, and it then, depending on what those scenarios are, it then tells you whether you'll be eligible. And then you go through and it asks you maybe 5 or 6 questions, and then it tells you that it will come back to you about whether you can claim the new style job seekers allowance or not. So head over to the government website and have a look at that. The next question is from Adam, and this is a Twitter direct message. Hi Judith, what is the payment schedule for grants under the Self-Employed Income Support Scheme? Is it going to be monthly instalments or an upfront payment in full? I've not claimed any benefits yet, but I want to do it now. So Adam, this comes back actually to a question I think that Tracy asked earlier. The Self-Employed Income Support Scheme was running from April, May and June, and there was one payment for that, paid in full to cover the 3 months. Then you had July, August, September, and that was one payment again, paid in full. This one is covering November, December, and January, and it will again be one payment paid in full. You can't apply for it until the 30th of November, so it will come into your bank account in December. You can't, as far as I'm aware, go back now and claim for the other one that has been and passed. It is just the current one that is opening up that you can apply for now. It might be worth just double checking that the previous SEISS grant, that scheme still isn't open. I've got a feeling it's shut at the end of October. But again, if you Google it, it will tell you the exact date that finished. Lewis from Twitter direct message. Hi Judith, is the payment under the extended coronavirus job retention scheme going to be upfront, or will it be in arrears? They're always in arrears, the furlough payments. So you have to pay your employee and then you do a claim. There was at one point where you could fast forward almost 2 weeks if you knew exactly what hours your employees were going to be working or whether they were going to be off. You used to be able to extend it forward. My understanding is with this one is it'll be a case of you doing your payroll for November and then submitting a claim following that. So unfortunately, you do have to manage your cash flow on the basis that you will pay your employees first and then you will get the money back from the government through this claim. I've got a final question today is from Dylan, and this is an Instagram direct message. And Dylan says, hi Judith, my question is regarding the eligibility for universal credit. I have set aside some savings for investing in the business and utility bills for the next 6 months. Will this be considered as capital? It's a really good question, Dylan. There is actually specifically an eligibility criteria about savings. So it depends how much money you've put to one side. Again, if you go into the government website and you go on universal credit, it will tell you there what the level of savings are that will exclude you from claiming universal credit. I can't remember off the top of my head the exact amount that it is, but yes, if you have certain savings over an amount that they dictate, you can't then claim the universal credit. So it's worth just having a look at that and deciding whether your savings are over or under the level that they're saying. So that's all we've got time for in terms of questions today. The poll today that we asked was, do you have enough buffer set aside for the second UK lockdown? And 50% of you said yes, and 50% of you said no. So that actually is probably in line with what I would expect to have been the answer, given how my clients have been reporting to me how they are feeling. We have seen a variety of performance from our clients across all sectors. We have some who are obviously really struggling, particularly retail, hospitality businesses who really struggled in the initial lockdown. We're finding their feet again. And then obviously in the Northwest, we had tier 3 conditions brought in for many of our areas, which then further impacted. And obviously now lockdown means that those businesses are now shut. So that is obviously the negative side, but we have also seen some fantastic growth from online businesses. So what I would actually say is a bit of a closing statement is that if you're a retail shop and you've got the capabilities of possibly putting some of that produce or stock or whatever online, you may well actually find that you can generate some income through this lockdown that you maybe not have thought was possible. So have a look at, if you've got a website, have a look at how you can get some of those products on there. And lots of my local businesses are actually contacting people via Facebook and doing adverts on Facebook for click and collect and things like that. So have a look at that as well. And let's try and get through this next 4 weeks in the best possible state that we can. Thank you very much for all your questions today. Really appreciate you taking the time to come and watch today's show. If you've got any further questions, please do get in touch with QuickBooks support team on Facebook, or at Moore and Smalley, you can contact me using the email address digitalsolutions@mooreandsmalley.co.uk, and on our website, which is www.mooreandsmalley.co.uk. We have lots of advice and planning alongside all the latest coronavirus financial support. So please do pass along that website and have a look at our Restart, Recover and Rise Above Hope. Coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is Tom Exton. Tom works as a full-time investment banker in London and also runs an internationally known and respected fitness brand called LDNM. Tom also runs a popular YouTube channel called TGE TV. So tune in tomorrow for some insightful advice on how to run multiple businesses. And just a final reminder that if you need any more advice, please do join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook, where accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning, and I hope you have a great day.